A 40-minute long 3 versus 3. You just know this one's going to be good. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks, where today I've got exactly what I just laid out for you. A 3 versus 3 on High Noon Remake, version 1.0. I'm interested to see what goes on in this match. We've already got some spawns in spots that I wouldn't expect. Captain's Rex has already spawned. Well, spawned here, as you can see by the impact crater fading away now. We're gonna go up into the highlands here. I wonder what the idea was behind that. We have just a Nanis going to be spawning on the middle section of the lowlands here, and a Zayon. Friendly faces all around here are going to be going as a Cortex commander, blue team leader, spawning on the western side and going into a bot lab. On the red team, we have McDuddle going to be stepping into the puddle on the southern side of this map, getting the feet wet, presumably anyway. Looks like that's what the line is indicating here, drawn out by the yellow player. Interestingly, the yellow player, highest true skill, should be the team leader. That's going to be Rietzfeet, or, well, I'll leave it untranslated. You can check the comments in case you're curious what Rietzfeet stands for, but I'll just go by Rietzfeet. Or Rietzvet. Somebody, they told me whether it was a good pronunciation or not, but I've already forgotten. And of course, rounding out the red team, it's going to be Elite Noob 13. Elite Noob 13, at the very least, already thinking about getting into the northern seas here with that Cortex, with that Armada naval lab here. Probably expecting to see dolphins, maybe a couple of skaters, something like that early on. Maybe even a submarine would be quite nice, just to try and deny some of that economy in the early game here from Zayon. I would love to see it, but of course, as of right now, the red team and the blue team, neither one have any idea what's going on across the map here. What is going on across the map? Well, I'm not quite sure. I'm waiting to see whether Captain's Rex is going to be going for an air lab or just going for, I don't know, maybe they just really wanted to lock down this northern area. Putting down an LLT here to make sure there's no run-bys, I suppose. A couple of walls could probably help with that as well. Not the worst idea, certainly. There's quite a lot of metal extractors available if you play this map 3v3 though, so I think definitely we need to see some very, very quick expansions here. Jusanis has just an anus, maybe? I know I'm butchering your name, maybe a little bit intentionally. Green player here has a lot of work to do, and especially as a vehicle player, they definitely need to get out on the map and start claiming a couple of those metal extractors, lickety split. And it looks like that's exactly what the green Cortex commander here is going to be doing. There is already a grunt across the map here for Rietzfeet, who is going to be checking around, trying to see what is going on the other side of the map. Interesting. Captain's Rex is going into a hovercraft lab. I don't hate it. In fact, I quite like it, because it does mean that you're going to be able to claim all these metal extractors, right? All the ones on your side of the map, but also these little island metal extractors, which are quite valuable. 2.6 metal per, and there's 2 of them, bringing you up to a grand total, I do believe, of just about 5.2 metal. Captain's Rex here are going to have to spend a while finishing up this lab, though. It does take a good long bit to build a naval lab. It's one of the most expensive starts in the game, and therefore it's important that you get a early game economy up and running. Sorry, trying to pull up the labs here. 900 metal for that versus 740 for vehicles, 650 for bots, or 860 for air. 600 for shipyard. Shipyard, wow, extremely cheap, actually. Huh. All this time, I never knew shipyards were actually cheaper than bot labs. I guess the more you know. Learning live with the Brightworks. There you go. Now, Zayon has moved the commander over here and claimed all these metal extractors, but what good is it if you can't power them here? A little bit of an energy stall at the moment. As far as energy goes in this map, wind and tidal power both looking pretty bad. Let's see what the wind risk is. Average wind speed of 9, wind risk of 18.4. Sheesh. Yeah, that is no good. I think solar panels and advanced solar panels are going to be the way to go on this one. I really don't see a more efficient path than that forward. You just don't want to risk it with wind speed being so low so much of the time. 18.4% of the game, it's going to be below 6th. And as a Cortex player, you really need to be careful about that. So I think maybe a little bit of wind to boost you early on in the game, but transitioning to advanced solar panels or geothermals, of course, which I do see scattered across the landscapes here, going to be a little bit better of a choice as far as an economy goes. McDuddle hasn't really expanded all too much here. There's still a lot of metal extractors that are left unclaimed at the moment, and I think that's a big flaw in both of these teams right now, is not expanding and grabbing these metal extractors as quickly as humanly possible. Southern side here for the blue team, and the southern side for the red team as well. Both teams having a little bit of a metal metal deficit right now than where they could be if they were a little more greedy about claiming those metal extractors as quickly as possible. Eventually, a constructor will be spared here by McDougall to go claim all these metal extractors, especially these 2.6s. I really feel like you want to grab those as quickly as possible. Up northern area, we're also left unclaimed. Yeah, it's a lot of metal that's not going into both players, or both teams' economies, rather. Green player is porking up back here. I really don't see why we wouldn't pork up on the water over here. Feels like a much better area. I mean, there's this little embankment here that units would have to climb up to, making them a little bit slower here. Reedsfeed has got to be more than happy to see that there's no contest over here on this side of the island, and is going to start moving the commander in. Building some LLTs here. There are grunts that are going to find this eventually, but man, if it's not just a little bit too late here. Apologies, just clearing my throat there. Reedsfeed does manage to take down one of those grunts here. Tries to get the decon on a couple of them. Not going to finish, though. And at least for the time being, for the foreseeable future, going to have a nice little foothold on the beaches and the shores. Southern Seas contested by McDougall here. Going into Skeeters, interesting. Having a critical metal shortage right now, partially because of the geothermal being built here. 560 metal is quite expensive. About halfway done with the construction there, but also, again, getting these metal extractors so that you can continue expanding, going to be really important. Right now, getting the 2.6 metal extractors, and I think that's going to help McDougall quite a bit. If it seems like I'm being harsh on these players, well, for some cases, I certainly am. Looks like Captain S. Rex is, want to say, yeah, pretty new to the game based on the chevrons here. For those that might know, I know a lot of you do, and all of you out there who watch every single video, I'm sure you're aware. I know they're out there, and I do appreciate them. Very, very much so. The chevrons here are a representation now of how much time you've put into the game. It no longer represents your true skill level, your leaderboard level, or any of that nonsense. It is just how many hours you've put into your account, right? That's all that it represents now. It used to be different, but that's what it means now. So when we take a look at this and we see that Captain Rex has 1 chevron as opposed to just an Ennis who has 3, and then the silvers and the multi-bars, all those. It just represents the more, of course, being that you have more experience in here. Oh, Azeon, my friend. Oh, down to 3% on that commander. Just didn't notice that he was getting blasted away by this LLT, I suppose. Now his commander's in a really tricky position. Uh-oh. 4% on that bad boy. He desperately needs something to go kill him. Yeah, I mean, Elite Noob has Azeon in a perfect corner right here. It takes 2 or 3 clicks from a from a commander or something, from anything to kill this commander now. Ooh, that's a tense commander battle right there. Submarine was produced, and that's great. That's going to allow Elite Noob to shut down a whole lot of Azeon's metal extractors that are out in the water. Although that being said, I think it was just one. Yeah, just one metal extractor out there. So the submarine will shut it down, which is nice. But for the meantime, Elite Noob having a dominating control over the northern seas. Eventually, forces here from Yellow Reedsfeet are going to push across the track here. Looks like Reedsfeet pushing northern and trying to capture these valuable metal extractors. It's a good move. Building a forward vehicle bay. It's a bit risky. I mean, that is a very far forward vehicle bay, but he has the thugs here to support this. And with all those units going down right there, there's definitely an option for res bots or reclaim bots, which are the same thing, to get in there and start picking up some of those units, fending them back from the brink of death, and folding them back into your own unit composition here. The mighty thug push. It's a tough one to shut down, especially if you're on the back foot. It's one of those pushes that you can do usually when you're ahead to get more ahead. It's not usually brought out when you're behind. It's not usually as effective. It can work against certain compositions if they're just going heavily into, I guess, medium tanks. It works decently. If they're going heavily into pawns, it works pretty well as well. But even those will get overrun eventually by numbers. It works tremendously, though, if you're using them against other thugs or other units and you just have the numbers advantage. You have to pair it, of course, with a whole lot of res bots in order to keep those thugs in the fight, keep resurrecting them, repairing them, all that good stuff. But if you can manage to do that, you'll be rewarded with an extremely durable composition. Yeah, I'm liking this a whole lot more for Azeon here. Yep. Despite the thug push looking quite nice, getting those resurrection bots out and available is going to be really the determinant difference between who should win this engagement right now. There's, of course, also the Twin Guard here contributing laser fire, one blast at a time to shut down some of these thugs here. Oh, they do manage to pop the geothermal though. That's quite nice. That's going to be a lot of economy down the drain for Izaon here. I apologize for that. I guess the food I just had is trying to come up for a commentation as well. Either way, the thugs here going to be engaging against pounders. It's an interesting engagement, and the pounders win 99% of the time. However, there is the option to engage them on a certain angle at a certain time of day when the weather is just right, when you've your sign is rising, and if everything lines up perfectly, that is to say, you can get a decent trade against those pounders, but it is very complicated. This is much more what the pounder looks like. 90% of the time, this is exactly what the pounder does. It just shuts these units down, stops them from moving, and all they're gonna ever be able to do is lay waste, or lay in waste on the front lines here. Rusbot's desperately trying to patch together an army, though. I mean, we do see thugs resurrected from the grave, going to be put back on the front line to fight once more for their country. You can kite the pounders here. They are very slow. However, there's only so much kiting you can do. Especially in confined little face points like this, little hard choke points, hard points. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyways, Justinanis is AFK. Wondering why we're not contributing here. These incisors could certainly go across the map and do tons of damage. There's not really enough static defense to stop all these. Could tear through. I mean, several opportunity paths here. Just briskly, we're talking about at least one there. At least one here. Might even be able to plunge all the way into the back of the red base. Like, there's a lot of opportunity here. Azaon's commander did go down, by the way. I missed it, but I don't think we were expecting any differently here. That commander was backed into a pickle, and there really was no direct answer for Azaon. Probably too focused with the micro here on the front lines anyways to have to even get a chance to worry about that. Resbot's here repairing as well, very important. Now you can see Reed's feet falling behind on the front lines here. Yeah, metal production has essentially ceased. He does have a resurrection bot here that he could use to eat up some of these corpses, and I think that's probably the right idea. But with all these corpses that have been produced and sent across here, there's now more than enough army to push this back. And Reedsfeet is, well, at the very least aware of it, has eaten up the lab. Oh, it goes down before it gets finished reclaiming. That's a bummer. That means Reedsfeet doesn't manage to get all of the eco back into his pockets from that laboratory going down, and of course also not getting a chance to reclaim even the wreckage here. That hurts. That hurts pretty bad. The little drawings fading away here. Let me clear the map. Meanwhile, down on the southern side, McDuddle has claimed this, so the red team showing an impressive seafaring experience, shall we say. Knowing exactly where, when, and why to strike, moving in with very precise movements here. See, deciding to engage, and, well, losing a couple of dolphins for it, but still, I think the trigger has been pulled, and I don't think that was a bad idea whatsoever. Hovercraft constructors are being queued. There's not enough build power here. We need to see some construction turrets going up. 2 or 3 or 6 of those could decently pump out units here. Problem with amphibious tanks is they are prone to being bombed by, well, basically anything on the high seas. They have no torpedo launcher. They have no depth charge protection. They have nothing to defend themselves from assault. So a single destroyer is going to be more than enough to, at the very least, scuff up all of these for static defense to clean up in the end. Yeah, destroyers poking away at whatever they can as well. Not bad. McDuddle, on the other hand, could do well to transition into some sort of amphibious unit. Amphibious units or seaplanes. I would really like to see seaplanes, actually. Yeah, seaplanes could do a lot of damage here. None of these players going into aerial units quite yet. None of the blue players, that is, going into any kind of airplanes. And that means that if you transition to seaplanes, especially as an Armada player, there's a whole lot of options that you have. You can go for those torpedo bombers, of course, to try and deal a little bit of damage. Although, if your opponent is going as hovercraft, it's probably not as viable as the Sabres, which are much, much better. We've seen those in a couple of casts recently, and they are just a beauty. Beauties like, by the way, Lencraft Designs. That's the my new partner in crime, Lencraft Designs. Sorry, I want to say Lencraft as like Lencrafter. They make my glasses. Lingcraft Designs. I'll have a link to them down below in the description section, by the way, in case you haven't seen the video with my lovely little ad about Lindsay and the wonderful artwork she does. Perfect thing for if you're looking for a gift for the holidays or something like that, or you have a special pet that you'd like to have embossed onto your wall. There's some really cool 3D artwork sculptures that they look at. I'll leave it to you to go check that out in the on their website, where you can find more details and all that sort of stuff. We have the promotion code Brightworks going right now, so you can save 15% on whatever offer you get for your 3D painted. Well, actually, I guess it's for anything. I want to say the 3D models, the 3D pet sculptures, but I guess it's on anything in the store. Anyways, hover tank's going down here. Dolphin's really showing exactly why Navy is so much better than Hovercraft here. Just so much more health in general, so much more damage in general. It's a very one-sided engagement all the time. Going into T2 here, I think we have too many labs. Yeah, I think Captain's Rex has too many labs right now. I think probably eating up one or two, or maybe all of them. And well, you could eat two of them up and go into T2. Or you could eat all of them up and transition into one full-blown production for the other. Either one would work, but I don't think all three is the right decision here. Wow. Resurrected army, as well as the resbots for resurrecting the army. Now pushing across the map here. Zayon showing just how lethal that thug push can be when it's flipped on your opponent's head. Shuriken's now in the mix as well. Trying to paralyze whatever they can. Oh, are we playing with the EMP rework? Hard to tell. I don't think so. It doesn't look like we are. The EMP rework is really cool. It allows you to, basically the way it works is it makes it so that as you EMP something, its fire rate slows down, its movement speed slows down, and it just starts to become comatose until eventually you fully paralyze it. But it also makes units a lot more resistant to paralyzation, which I think is great. I think it nerfs a little bit of the power of EMPs, but it also allows them to be a little bit more accurate. I feel like I think it's a better representation of what EMPs should really be. All these shuriken preventing all this damage right here is nothing if essentially all of it is just gonna continue being pushed by the res subs over, or the res bots rather, that are just picking everything up over here. Res bots are now at this point going into resurrect the commander. That's an interesting decision. If we can pull it off, it could certainly do some serious damage. No anti-air in the mixture though, and that's I mean, it's difficult to remedy. This far along the push, it's very difficult to remedy. Looks like one of these res bots is going to reclaim a whole bunch of this stuff. I think that's a good idea, having at least one to reclaim. Going to help you out in the long run, I feel like. Yep. Shurikens are in crisis mode, but it does mean this commander is, I mean, already almost about 50% of the way resurrected. Uh-oh. That could be a devastating resurrection right there. Right in the enemy's backline, resurrecting a commander. I mean, ooh. Could be bad. At least one Shuriken now pulled to deal with this. Paralyzing a lot of these resurrectors here. Yeah. I think eventually these are going to be paralyzed, but that was pretty close. 76-77% of the way through with that commander wreckage right there. Very close to resurrecting right in the enemy's backline. Oh, one of the tanks has been freed from its shackles. Need a little bit of micro here, though. What is Zayon going for? Eating up the T1 solar panels has gone into a T2 lab here. Gonna be getting out some of those T2 bots. Don't mind it whatsoever. A Czar has been produced here and is gonna make its way over towards the shoreline. There's actually already one out and about here, bombarding some of these destroyers very nicely. 25% per shot there. That's very powerful, more or less. Nicely done. Yeah, I think that's a great option for shoreline defense. Wow, okay, going into going into a T2 lab as well in the ocean as on the land. Captain's Rex all over the place. Not quite sure what tech route to go for here. This is bold. I mean, yeah, that's a very, very bold jump to get into T2 on the high seas after your opponent has been, well, effectively winning the naval theater for quite some time. %95 on that commander. Very, very close with the resurrect there. So a question I have is, if we have a resbot go and start resurrecting it, will it be able to pick up where the enemy resbots left off? I.e., if this resbot comes over here and starts resurrecting, will it be 95% complete and then the job is almost already done here? Interesting questions. Where are these gunships coming from? These are T1 gunships, Banshees. Where on earth were these produced from? There must have been a lab that has already been long since eaten here, because there's no T1 Armada lab anywhere. Oh, there it is. Okay, McDougall has gone for a T1 Armada air lab over on this island over here. Okay, I get what's going on. Anti-air of any sort would be great. Now. Well, Trasher will have to do for now. Yeah, there's the gunships. Very, very late on the anti-air here. Eventually, the Trasher, as well as these Thistles, are going to dissuade some of these gunships, but, I mean, a little bit of anti-air could have spared that front line from any of the distraction of these gunships. Yeah, I guess they're going to take down one of these LLTs. Not bad. Snipe the T2 Constructor, and I'd say it's probably worth it. Same turret here. Going to be more than enough to shut these down, though. It's effectively just a rapid-fire version of the Thistle, which makes it pretty good. Yeah. Submarine goes down there, but so too will the Jellyfish. Yeah, Jellyfish. As it falls here on the coastline to a bunch of destroyers from the forces of Elite Noob. More T1 bots, and not a shy number of them either. We're going into, well, maces after maces after maces. I don't know if it's the right decision here. It's a decision, but I'm not sure if it's quite the right one. Going into T2 right now might be the right idea, especially since you know that your opponent is on T2. I think you're probably going to end up spending a little too much metal trying to do too much for T1 to be able to handle. And we can see the Tsars having a field day, blasting apart these pawns. And what pawns indeed. Reduced to atoms. T2 lab right here. Looks like Azan has just resigned to give up the naval presence here, just instead going to focus on his own forces on the land and try and win that way. With the damage that was done right through the center of the map here, I can understand it, but of course losing those commanders, every commander lost is, well, one step closer to a victory, right? Every commander killed is one step closer to a victory. Maybe that's what I should say. Going into a Dreadnought first, that's I mean, if you can pull it off, that'd be quite nice, but I don't think these bombers are going to let you. They shouldn't let you. There's not a great target for these bombers. I mean, they can go after the solar panels, they can go after the build power, but all of that is kind of difficult for Stormbringers to kill really effectively. I think actually killing this T2 lab, probably not a bad idea whatsoever. I struggle to find a great use case for these Stormbringers. Looks like they will go in after the solar panels in the end. Yeah, I mean, you know I'm a fan of watching T1 solar panels die. Probably want to disperse these bombs a little better. You could certainly come in from a better angle too, right? You come in from this angle, you're gonna bomb across the surface of those solar panels. It's gonna be a much nicer connection there. Little improvements to make across as the micro improves steadily. I'm gonna speed it up here as it looks like the front lines have stagnated. We've got T2 in development here by Elite Noob, going into a geothermal here as well. That's quite nice. A lot of Porcupine defenses right here, but again, we're kind of porking around the agitator, which just reduces its field of fire, right? I mean, you can imagine it can't really shoot out here, can't really shoot out here, I guess. There's a lot of angles where this thing can no longer fire. And it's for that reason that I think what would probably be a better decision here would be to go ahead and reclaim it, go up to T2, and just worry mostly about getting your T2 built and upgraded. Engagement down south will be the end of that T2 naval lab here. A couple of Tsars trying their very best to fire away into the ocean. Technically, they were even able to hit those submarines. That's quite funny. Just a big enough projectile, I suppose. Charmer likewise going to be able to eventually hit those submarines, but yeah, that's the end of the naval engagement here by our Aquamarine player, fittingly. As yeah, they're gonna have to rebuild in a different way. Naval control solidly in the hands of the red team, and it's times like these when you need to really start considering, ooh, not a capital ship. I was gonna say some missile ships or some air units. Now, McDougall is doing a great job with these bombers. I think that's a great idea. Certainly could do well, though, to target big economic centers. Like, for instance, the green base over here. There's SAM turrets, but SAM turrets don't shoot things down quickly. They shoot things down consistently, and bombers are more about punch than consistence. Now, this is nice, targeting down the T2 and the T1 labs. They were built very close to each other, so I don't mind that whatsoever. The bombers being grouped up, though, is a bit of an issue, and you can see that anti are having a field day because a lot of them were clumped up, meaning that the AA could use its minuscule amount of AoE damage in order to shut down a lot of those bombers. A lot of shit. I take your meaning, though, Reedspeed. Yeah, that's definitely a lot of units, and units you should be afraid of because this is all T1, and those are Sheldon, the T2 siege unit here for Cortex, and they can certainly pack a punch. Even in small numbers like this, they're capable of whittling down T1 units relatively quickly. Yeah, that's certainly worth being afraid of here. I particularly like, it's a tough one, that radar and radar jammer bots have been included here. It's always very tricky to remember to do that, but it is. I mean, it just makes your compositions that much more effective. They really turn into a dangerous force as opposed to being, you know, somewhat of a nuisance. T2 lab is reduced to atoms here. Will not be rebuilt. Going for a pulsar here. That's ambitious. Pulsars are very expensive and they take a lot of energy to run, and I don't think a couple of T1 advanced solar panels are going to be quite enough. I mean, technically they will, but with no build power to really build this right now, you can see Captain Rex just has a lot of metal and no way to spend it. In fact, I think that's kind of the problem for the entire blue team right now. A lot of build power, or a lot of metal rather, but no way to spend it. We need more construction turrets over here, I do believe. Yeah, it looks like Azeon recognizes that and is going to start that right up. At the very least, eating up the T2 lab and using the metal to produce units using these Twitchers right here. That's always quite nice. I agree with Elite Noob. I think T3 soon would be pretty good. But the Zars, I'm fairly impressed with the Zars for their coastal defense capabilities. Managing to shut down these destroyers, and in large part that's because, of course, the destroyers were clumped up together. But also very nicely done by the green player, trying to cover for his teammate who might be a little bit newer to the game, making sure that there's going to, at the very least, be some sort of some sort of opportunity for the blue player to, at the very least, try and stay in this match here. Bunch of fighters, a bunch of scout planes. Blinks, they look like fighters from up above, but those are just the T1 scout planes going to be going their way across, making across the the face of the blue team here, trying to figure out what exactly they can see. This is the vision range here for the red team of the blue team, and you can see they more or less know exactly where all of the bases are. However, don't have a great intuition for blue's base, Aeon's base here. Starts up the fusion reactor. I think that's probably a decent idea. Build power really is the name of the game, so I'm glad to see that we're coming up to speed on that. With 2,000 energy in the bank, most of that coming from the advanced geothermal, I think we well need to take advantage of that and start up more and more energy production. Energy production means metal production, means energy production, means metal production, and it's an upward cycle that eventually leads to T3. Fiends have pushed their way across the map here, getting a decent trade against a lot of these units, burning away whatever they can. Sheldon also contributing however they can. Bomber. Used as a scout here. It'll find a lot of anti-air there, so I guess that's worth knowing. Yeah, it's a surprising lack of units right now, though, from the blue team. I feel like Azeon definitely could stand to go into units, and there we go. We do have the T3 Gantry coming up here. 5,000 metal in the bank, so I think a T3 Gantry is well worth investing in at this point. As you can see, that metal starting to plummet. Zar getting to work over here. Nicely done. Gonna start blasting away at a lot of those destroyers. Man, these Zars have a lot of destroyer kills. That's a sentence I never really expected to say. Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. I think this here tremor should probably fire a little bit further forward here. Just set it to manually fire in this zone. Turn it off of focused fire mode as well. Doesn't do it any good. Whole point of the tremor is that it's inaccurate as all hell. Denies a big area, right? And yeah, so turn it off of focus fire mode and start sending these shells out into the universe, distributed as they will. Captain Rex has gone back into T2 Navy, determined, if nothing else. Gotta give props for it. Gunships have just been chilling over here on the side of the map, southern side. McDuddle, hesitant to use them. for he knows not of the cloaked metal extractors that are hiding right here. Which, all said and done, have actually paid themselves off quite nicely here. Captain Strex did invest in them, and for what it's worth, it's quite nice that they have remained cloaked this entire time and managed to, at the very least, keep a little bit more income heading into the Aquamarine player's base. Bombers here, oh, 2% on that advanced geothermal. Oh no, it only needs one more run. Here it comes. Blink, 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 blink. Boom goes the advanced geothermal. Oh, that hurts. Luckily, the fusion reactor was up and running before then, but oh man, that is a real zinger. I wonder if we have the advanced cataphracts, the turbo laser cataphracts, the Star Wars cataphracts. Yeah, that is a bummer to lose the advanced geothermal like that. I think we should probably prioritize that over the advanced fusion reactor here. That's very expensive, 9,700 for 3,000 energy, versus the measly 1,500 for 1,250 energy. As far as efficiency goes, that's almost a metal per energy, or 1 metal to 1 energy, which is just unheard of. I'm gonna go ahead and say that this lab has been built backwards. Yep, pretty confident that ship is gonna have a really hard time getting out of there. Not the end of the world, and for anybody who might be curious, you can change the direction of your labs using the bracket keys. Left bracket to change left, and right bracket to change right, of course. And that, you know, may or may not be useful to someone who is finding themselves in a similar position here. Capital ships, man. Everybody is baited into making one of these capital ships. 17,000 metal, and I mean, I guess if you can park it right here, like specifically right in this cove, it'll be well worth it. But man, other than that, it is a usually, almost always, I am going to say that it's a pretty big waste of metal. Think about how much T3 economy could be set up here. Advanced fusion reactors, at least, well, almost 2 advanced fusion reactors. You could have an advanced fusion reactor and tons of advanced energy converters. I mean, there's so much more that a capital ship could be than just firepower, long-range firepower. It could be units. It could be 17,000 metal of T3 units. Well, I guess it'd be about, what would it be? 8,000 metal of T3 units. Still very, very impressive. I mean, we're talking about at least a couple of Shivas, maybe some Marauders, any of those amphib units. I'm just opening up the possibilities here. We also are missing a metal extractor there. Not the end of the world, but you can imagine after so many minutes, missing a metal extractor does start to cost you quite a lot of metal. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the game one more time here. We do have T3 Shiva out on the field, and I like that they're getting aggressive here. Oh, they find a spy bot. That's quite nice. Always good to keep on the lookout for those. You never know when they're infiltrating your ranks. Although, that's not entirely true. You probably are going to know as soon as you start to be hit rather accurately out of the blue. Either way, though, Shiva firing away. And, yep, they start to melt down this T1 pretty quickly. Whoa, Scuttle got dangerously close right there, but it did eventually get shut down. Elite New moving the commander forward and thinking about D-gunning here, as his teammate has suggested. Going to be thinking about it. There are Scuttles out. The Scuttles are very good at shutting down T3, ooh, but you have to keep them alive. Scuttles give off a radar signature, but they don't give off a visual signature, right? They're cloaked. So one thing that you can use them for is you can use them as a follow-up to a Juno missile. Commander does go down up here, by the way. I think some Scuttles might have been right next to it. Shiva blasting away all over the place. All right, looks like we can afford to slow this match down again. Captain Esrex has gone down on the southern side. Capital ship has finished and is starting to besiege this area. Shiva are now firing away at a whole lot of paladins, and all through the map we are now seeing aggression, aggression, aggression. Finally, some ducks are taking advantage of this area over here. I'm really surprised it's taken so long to get these ducks into, or well, to get anything over on this side here. Oh, they're all clustered up so close together. Oh no. Well, it's nice to see it attempted here, even if at the very end, not going to get quite as many of them through as I would have liked to see. A little bit of splits right there, and the Tsar would have been mostly mitigated. Catapult also doing some great damage over here. Fiends will eventually be tasked with cleaning up the job, and I think that will be all she wrote for the duck-like aggression. Capital ship now bombarding across the way. Trying to fire on this geothermal, and I think it will eventually pop it. Again, very inaccurate, these capital ships. You can see the yellow lines denoting exactly where that capital ship may or may not fire. And that's exactly what we're seeing right here. Geothermal does go down eventually. T3 on the other side of the map. Looking pretty surrounded, though. Yeah, you know what? Those bulls did hold. Bulls are so close to a T3 unit. They are... I mean, if they came out of the T3 lab, I wouldn't be surprised. They really are that powerful. Tremors here firing away. They're actually a fairly decent option to counter a capital ship just because of how massive the capital ship is. They, I mean, yeah, they do a decent job of firing at that thing. Going for a cloaked fusion reactor right here. Interesting. Looks like these submarines will finally get aggressive over here. Gonna pop some of the build power. Don't mind that whatsoever. I think they could easily nestle themselves over on this side right here and start working on that T2 lab. Probably would be worth it. Paladin right now can't seem to find these two submarines. There we go. Eventually going to start launching depth charges, but it's been a while. Those could have been cleaned up quite a long time ago. Pop-up turret's going to try and deal with some of these bulls that are lingering in the backline here. Elite Noob doing a great job of microing this, though. Keeping it out of harm's way. Trying to get some value out of this tank that managed to sneak through, but meanwhile, the Tsar push. And it's a massive one. Is there anti-air in the mix? I don't believe so. Yep, that's a lot of shuriken, and they shut down those Tsars quite nicely. What good is a Tsar if it's EMP'd to death, right? And the bulls jump on top of it. You know what? I think the shuriken have done it. Shutting down all of that meat, all that T2 metal tank with just a couple of shurikens here. I mean, how many shurikens do we have in grand total? 26 shurikens, totaling 1,500 metal to kill an entire T2, T3 army. Anti-air is very important, folks. One or two flak trucks could have essentially prevented that. But, yeah, unfortunately, just not what we saw. Now, we have a whole bunch of T1 medium tanks that were built on offensive soil. As you can see, McDuddle has built a T1 lab over here. Going to be moving these tanks forward. Now they do hit the Twilights. Uh-oh. Looks like they'll survive for now. Twilight's going to accidentally stop these pushes just by, well, virtue of the fact that they EMP anything around them, as we will handily demonstrate here. Oftentimes it can save commanders, or at the very least buy them precious time. Catapults are very, very expensive and very precious. You need to make sure that you conserve them whenever you can. So I like to see that this one's retreating right now. Going to try and stay alive. Try and keep itself focused, and well, hopefully get a nice little connection there. Not the worst connection, but definitely could have been better. It's not like that's really anything that Isaeon can improve upon, right? That's just Cortex. And down it goes to those T2 bulls, T2.5 bulls. Not technically, but at the very least in my heart. Now we have a T1 bot spam. Interesting. Oh, okay. I mean, it works if you're going to be reclaiming all this metal right here. How much was that in grand total? Oh, 38,000 metal laying on the floor here. That's a, I mean, that's a good reclaim pool. Really happy to see these T1 res bots here eating up whatever they can, trying to, at the very least, fund more offensive aggression over here. The red team is doing a great job. Yeah, this capital ship also continuing to lay down the fire. Medium tank push was cleaned up eventually. T2 lab did fall. It's a messy game down south here. I like this vehicle bay. Reed's Feet sharing some of that metal to McDuddle to make sure that units are being bought all over the place. Going for dreadnoughts here, I'm not sure exactly why. We've already won the naval theater. No reason to invest in more navy at this point. Just keep your opponent out of the water. Going to advanced T2. Going to T2 vehicles. Going to T2 air. Going to T2 of whatever you need. But yeah, I think it's time that we abandon the boats here. All ships to shore. Gunslingers now included in the mix as well. Not I mean, you can see how much they're contributing, right? They fall off pretty quickly once you get into the T2 stage. And T3 stage, you might as well forget about it. Pulsar did eventually finish up over here, so I guess that's nice. Capital ship could, of course, just outrange the Pulsar and blast it down eventually, but it's going to take a good long while. It is tricky. Like, what do you do in this situation as the naval player, the Aquamarine naval player? I think what I'd probably do is back off and start using all the metal that's all around over here to go into a proper late game economy. Just start ecoing like a madman. Start making advanced fusion reactors, energy converters, maybe up on this hill, and then eventually go into anti-Navy air. So torpedo bombers, regular bombers, EMP bombers, all that good stuff, since we are an Armada player anyways. And I think eventually that's probably going to be a better overall strategy than just trying to get back into the Navy, because I think you're essentially playing catch up, right? Like, we've already seen the economy start to grow like crazy here for your opponent, so you might as well just try and catch up by ecoing like a madman, taking that exponential curve and trying to ride it up above your opponent's head and then crush them with overwhelming force. On the southern side here, T2 is pushing forward. Bunch of bulls already in the back line here, blowing up a whole bunch of that build power. Scorpion can actually contribute over on that side. Not where it was intentionally intended to guard from, but it is nice to have that static defense protecting you, but I think there's just too much force. The grunt spam doesn't have an effective counter right now. So with these grunts getting into the back line, starting to scuff up all these buildings as well, taking up the valuable attention of the build power here, I think that's going to be all she wrote for the blue team. Red team took some really nasty hits right here in the early game, but managed to actually pull back using the reclaim from that force and managing to bounce back. I think the blue team just wasn't able to really effectively spend their resources. Yeah, I think that was ultimately the crux of their folly, was not being able to field enough forces quick enough here. Eventually, T1 spam, as well as T2 support, will be all she wrote, shutting down the blue production here. Pulsar goes down. Dreadnoughts are going to move in, start firing away. They do a lot of damage. They are a proper T2 warship. An engine of siege, a bruiser of the seas, if you will. And the last commander does go down for the blue team. GG is called, and that is going to be all she wrote on this match at Beyond All Reason. I like this map a lot. I think it offers a good amount of variety. I love these maps that intersect the center of the map with a little bit of water. I think it's one thing that I miss about, or rather I would like to see about Supreme Isthmus, Supreme Straits, is a little bit of water action so that the navies can actually fight each other. Anyways, I sure hope you enjoyed today's cast, and I will see you in the very next Beyond All Reason video. Peace out, folks.